Over the summer, I've been teasing the biggest update to the channel so far, and in this video I'm going to be explaining what that is as it heads into a new era. We'll also be discussing Elliot Anderson and whether Newcastle United could sign him in the future after a couple of stellar England performances this week. And also Eddie Howe's tactics will be in focus, with Woltemade and Yoane Wissa both looking to start up front against Wolves. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's been a little bit of a break for me. I've enjoyed having a few days off, but I'm ready to go again. Please do hit subscribe and like on this video. I really appreciate all your support, and there's a huge update coming which I'll get to in a minute. It's really exciting. I'm really looking forward to taking the channel into a new era, and I hope you'll join me on that journey. We'll also be, as I said, discussing Elliot Anderson and Woltemade and Yoane Wissa and whether they can play up front together. But before we get into that, the announcement is I am on Patreon now. I've started a Patreon page. There will be an option for you to support the channel going forward with 2 tiers. You can be a supporter or a member. A supporter will cost you £3 a month, and you'll be able to get my current content ad-free and be able to interact with me more personally in the comment section over on Patreon. And the member tier, £5 a month, you'll get bonus videos. There'll be a video this week on Patreon looking at Tino Livramento, which I'm really looking forward to doing as a little taster, but you'll also get Q&As, and you'll notice that I did a few videos over the summer of your thoughts and tried different things, and they really worked, and all the interactive stuff that's done really well I thought would be great over on Patreon. So if you are able and willing to pay £5 a month, it'll be bi-weekly mailbag episodes and also some your thoughts videos as well, where I'll ask for your input on a conversation. It'll be basically the same as a Q&A in terms of the setup, but instead of your questions, it'll be you and your opinions driving the discourse and driving the topic of the conversation. And there'll also be, as I said, there'll be bonus content, there'll be content from behind the scenes and various different things coming as well. So lots to get into over on Patreon this season. But just to be clear, if you don't want to or you're not able to support me over there, that's absolutely fine. All of the regular content will still be here on YouTube in terms of news, reaction, transfer stuff, all of that sort of thing will all be here regularly on YouTube. So you'll still have the opportunity to watch and support me over here as usual. But just if you are able or willing or want to support me in a bigger way, then you can over on Patreon, and I really do appreciate anybody who does that. So that's in the description below. There'll also be a video on Patreon explaining in more detail what is on the table in terms of if you subscribe and if you are able and willing to join me over there. But I just want to make it clear that there's no pressure. I appreciate every single person who watches the videos, who comments, who subscribes on here, and that service will not be affected. There'll still be plenty of content over here. There'll just be extra content, bonus content in more detail for the people who want it. And there'll be a couple of videos, one explaining the Patreon situation in more detail over there, and also a video on Tino Livramento and what I think he could bring this season as a little bit of a taster of what can happen over on Patreon. I fully understand that, you know, this is a long-term process, and as I say, there's no pressure for anybody to join me or not, but it's just for people who want extra content and are able to help support the channel, because it would help me take this content to a new level this season. I've got big plans that have never been seen before on the channel, and the summer that really gave me this platform with all the new subscribers, I mean over 1,000 just over the summer. I mean, I went into that end of May 800 subscribers and now sit here on just under 1,840. So really proud and really pleased with how it's gone. But yeah, you can support me over on Patreon if you so please, but if you do not feel able to or don't want to, then over here on YouTube there'll be plenty of content for you to get involved in as well. So today's main topic will be Elliot Anderson and what his future will hold, because Newcastle obviously sold him last summer for £15 million or £35 million, depending on how you want to bring in Odysseus Vlachodimos into that situation with Nottingham Forest. It was a PSR sale. There was no desire for Newcastle to sell Elliot Anderson. But what I will say is that move to Forest and the way he's developed over the last year at the City Ground has turned him into this player. I think everyone was aware of the quality that he had and the talent that he had, but was he going to get the opportunities to play at St James's Park and really get into a position where he could become this player this quickly? I think that was always doubtful, but he's had a year at Nottingham Forest, and then he starred in 2 games for England in the number 6 role as well. So we know him as a number 8, potentially playing on the left-hand side that he did a few times at St James's Park. He's become a really, really important deep-lying playmaker at Nottingham Forest who gets forward a little bit of a 6-8 hybrid, so he would fit in perfectly in that sense at Newcastle alongside Tonali and Bruno now. And he's really hit those levels, he's really hit that height now that he was never able to. And you've got to give Nottingham Forest and Nuno Espirito Santo massive credit. Obviously, I know that he's just left his post and Ange Postecoglou is going to go in there, so perhaps Elliot Anderson's role will change over the next few months under Postecoglou, but he's done exceptionally well at the City Ground, earned his England call-up and absolutely starred in the last couple of games. And there's been lots of talk about Elliot Anderson's future, whether Newcastle will try and buy him back, whether Newcastle are able to buy him back, whether there's a buyback clause in his contract. And I did a bit of checking, and I think it's well known by now that he doesn't have that in his contract. I think it was always going to be unlikely, given the weak position that Newcastle found themselves in negotiating his exit. It would have been very, very difficult at that time, in that time frame as well, with that little time to go to the deadline. How close Newcastle came to a serious points deduction. They weren't really thinking, I think, long term about Elliot Anderson. And only now, I think, has the opinion really changed that he could be a long-term successor to one of that midfield 3 in Joe Linton, Bruno or Tonali. Whether one of those goes, or whether Joe Linton's going to be 30 in a couple of years, does Newcastle need a long-term replacement? Obviously, there's Jacob Ramsey in there as well. But Elliot Anderson, to me, feels like that perfect player for that role in that left-hand side long term. It would be brilliant to see him back at St James's Park. This is very much my opinion before any Nottingham Forest fans watching, and I know a few of them did around the Anthony Elanga stuff. I hope I'm respectful enough that I'm not suggesting that he will join or that he'll be silly not to join. I think Newcastle will have to pay a huge fee for him. I think he would be absolutely worth it, though. The power that he's got, the physicality, he's got the passing range. Saw yesterday with his setup for Nolly Madueke's goal, which just really came from Morgan Rogers' little flick through, but the ball that he played through, the intelligence of positioning, and then as you say, he's got the physicality and the creativity to get forward. He's got a lot of things in his game that make him perfect for Eddie Howe. And you can say it was a mistake to sell him. I actually don't think it was, even though I was sad to see him go, and it was a disappointing situation. As I said earlier, Nottingham Forest are the reason why he is the player he is today, because they've given him the platform. He's worked really well in a system under Nuno Espirito Santo in a deeper role, playing really well alongside Morgan Gibbs-White, and we've seen with Tonali and Bruno how it's taken time for them to adjust and play together. I think the fact that Elliot Anderson can fit into that 6 role and the 8 role and play further forward, that versatility, he is becoming the most Eddie Howe player I can think of at the moment, and that is one of really exciting things. So I don't think that Newcastle will be in pole position to sign Elliot Anderson anytime soon. Nottingham Forest will drive a hard bargain if Newcastle ever went in for him, and they obviously don't have any buyback clause or agreement that he can come back or anything like that in the contract by the sounds of it. So it doesn't feel like this one's in the offing at the moment, but I think he would be an absolutely huge signing for Newcastle in the future and should be one of their top targets going forward, because Newcastle will need to refresh that midfield. I've said so many times that Joe Linton's physicality is great for certain games, and Jacob Ramsey's come into this, I know, as well. But Elliot Anderson is the perfect Newcastle United midfielder thanks to his development at Nottingham Forest. Let me know in the comment section if you agree with my assessment. And finally, just quickly, I'm going to touch on Nick Woltemade and Yoane Wissa. Can the pair of them play together? We'll talk later in the week about the Wolves game and who will start and how Newcastle will set up in more detail. But I do think it'll be very interesting to see long term if they play together. I don't see it happening very often. I think that you can see Nick Woltemade's heat map from Opta on the screen now, and you can see how he picks up those number 10 positions and does really well in those spaces. And that might suggest that he would fit really well with Yoane Wissa, and I'm sure he would. But that doesn't necessarily mean he has to, because we saw with Isak last season, he would drop into those similar spaces and then get in behind. And that's what Newcastle will try and get Woltemade to do. And I think he is well suited to playing up front by himself and dropping into those false nine spaces, if you like, and impacting the build-up play, allowing Elanga and Gordon to stretch the pitch and create the space for him to have a lot of impact on the game in that way. But he'll also get in the end of chances as well. I think he will be expected to do that, and that probably means to me that Wissa will not partner Nick Woltemade very much at all, because it will impact those spaces. If you have somebody with him, I'm sure he could work. I'm sure he's played. I know he's played up front with strikers before, but he predominantly, to me, even though he isn't a classic 9, he would be best playing up front by himself because he needs more space to operate in, and adding Wissa in the box might sound like a great idea, but it would take the space away from Woltemade. So I don't think this will happen. It'll also impact the crux of the team, which is the midfield three, as we just mentioned, talking about Anderson, but Joe Linton, Tonali, Bruno, Jacob Ramsey, Willock as well in there as too. The midfield is the hub of Newcastle. The midfield is what makes Newcastle what it is, and it's such a powerful engine that you can't really tamper with it very successfully. So I don't see Woltemade and Wissa starting together very much at all. I think it'll be much more like the 22-23 dynamic between Isak and Wilson, where Isak would start the games, Wilson would come on, Isak would go to the left, or they'd replace each other, and it would work really well. I think that's more likely. I think if Wissa starts games, you'll see Woltemade on the bench, and that'll be probably the way it goes early on. Neither of them is likely to want to sit on the bench. I think long term, I just can't see the pair of them playing together. I think there will be a hierarchy, and it'll be long term Woltemade, then Wissa in the second striker role. Let me know if you agree with what I've said. Do you think that the pair of them will play together? Do you think they can play together from the start? I think it's different from the start and in-game. I think in-game is a really good tactical option for Eddie Howe, but at the start I think midfield is so important, and also you don't want to impact either of their games, particularly Woltemade, by partnering him with somebody else that will impact the space that he gets. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Let me know if you're also excited to join me on Patreon. I really do hope some of you do decide to take the plunge, and I will hopefully make it worth your while. Link is in the description. There will be a video this week over on Patreon as well, and there's a 7-day free trial for the membership tier, so you can see what it's like before you get charged. See if you want to join me over there. If not, absolutely fine. There'll be plenty of content over on YouTube too. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.